For over 20 years, I've led a life of solitude and prayer. Now, for the first time in my life, I'm going to Europe. I'm going on a grand tour in search of some of the finest art treasures in the world. Madrid stands on a high plateau at the very heart of Spain. I'm told that the Habsburg kings built their capital here because they thought that the keen air would soothe their gout. It's an aristocratic city, dominated by majestic palaces, formal gardens, and serene squares. But there's one attraction that makes Madrid the envy of the world, the Prado. This palace of art contains the riches of more than 7 centuries of art collecting. Whatever their failings as rulers, the Spanish royal family have always been discerning patrons of art. But despite all that's on offer, I'm on a pilgrimage to see the painting that most art lovers agree is the greatest of all time. It's Las MANINAS by Diego Velazquez. At first, this picture seems to be about a perfect little princess in her silver dress. On either side are her attendants, the MANINAS of the title, and all the others of her retinue, including the usual court dwarf and midget. Velasquez himself is at the side, holding a paintbrush and looking intently out at us. What he is looking at, and this is the touch of genius, can be seen reflected in the mirror at the back, the king and queen. They are there to have their portrait painted on this sunlit morning. There are 3 noble creatures in this picture. There's the dog, sort of natural grandeur, wonderful dog. And I think there's the easel, that great line that slices through, expressing visually what it means to be an artist, what visual art is. It's something of gigantic importance. It overpowers the room. And then behind it, magnificent, fully in command, the maestro organizing the orchestra, Velasquez himself. The center of the picture may seem to be the reflected royal couple, but of course the real center is Velasquez. He towers above everybody there. And then there's that touching extra fact that we only know now, that this picture, which used to hang in the king's private room that he looked at often, didn't have that red cross on Velasquez's breast. That is the cross of San Diego, and that says, "I am an aristocrat." It was only 3 years later when Philip IV, who loved and admired his painter, pushed it through and insisted that Velasquez should be admitted to the nobility, that he got his cross. And he promptly took the picture back and painted it on because it mattered so much to him. So in showing everybody that he's a gentleman, he has also achieved his other ambition. He's shown what a superb artist he is. He can take the ordinary, just a day in the studio, doing his job, which was to paint the royal family, and somehow infuse it with such light and poetry that we stand entranced. Velasquez portrayed his human subjects with great dignity, but when it came to gods, he wasn't always so objective. Who but he could show Mars, the god of war, looking defeated? What Velasquez has in mind, that this is after Mars's great humiliation. He fell in love with Venus. And Venus's husband Vulcan was determined to teach the lovers a lesson. And he made a net and put it over them while they were asleep. And then he called all the other gods to come and look. And then and pulled off the net, and all the gods saw them, and they laughed their heads off. Venus didn't mind all that much, being a woman and able to take this in her stride, but Mars was humiliated. And here you see him sitting after the great debacle of being laughed at. He's utterly dejected. He's lost his weapons, and he's mooning over having been made a fool of before the others. And you might also notice how the blue drapery does rather suggest a nappy. And the only thing erect is still his moustache. There's only one artist whom we could think of as equal to Velasquez, and that's Francesco Goya. He too spent much of his life as court painter, but he had an impetuous temperament and a dark and melancholic imagination. He saw for himself the horrors of war when Napoleon invaded Spain. This is one of the great icons of human cruelty and human courage, almost a crucifixion picture, and the executioners are shown as faceless killing machines. It's what we can all become if we don't take responsibility for our actions. At the end of his life, Goya, deaf and ill, understood more and more deeply how terrible war is. He understood not just with his mind but with his heart what cruelty to other people meant. And this picture is something that we too understand, we of the 20th century. People in a panic, flying in desperation. All the wagons and the animals, everybody escaping from the great colossus that straddles the horizon and dominates the sky. And we wonder, what is the colossus? Well, at a very superficial level, it's the Napoleonic War, the great threat that hung over Spain. And then we look again, and you notice that the colossus has his back to the fleeing people. He's looking out away from them. And we wonder, is this perhaps not an attacking colossus, but a defending colossus, the great heroic spirit of Spain that fought to the bitter end to keep its people safe? To say it's the atomic bomb, or it's death, or it's cancer, or it's AIDS, all that makes it too small. It's not a rational fear, just as the colossus isn't a rational figure. And it's very touching to think of Goya, the old, deaf, suffering face of Goya, that knew exactly what panic was, and what pain was, and the mystery of a great colossus dominating our life, and accepted it.